Hey, it's L.A. Lloyd, and today is the third appearance for Nita Strauss to co-host the Rock 30. Nice to see you again.
So nice to see you, and this time in your hometown, is that right?
Yeah, right here in Austin, Texas.
Love it.
The last time we did was Zoom, and then the time before that was on the Shiprock. Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
So fun.
Yeah, that was. So obviously, to reflect a little bit on that day, you were my last interview I had before we got off the ship, and I felt great. I was like, when I got home, everybody was like, hey, you might want to go get a test. Sure enough, I go get a test, and I come out positive. And then I'm like,
no.
I got to tell you, I was kind of freaked out because I knew you had a big appearance, I think, at the Rams game that weekend. And I was like, oh, my God, I hope I didn't give Nita COVID.
No, I was one of the few that came out unscathed from Shiprocked.
Man, that was a great time, though. I mean, the one thing that I still have to say really stuck out to me is when you and Johannes did Frankenstein.
Oh, it was so great.
Amazing.
He was up there saying, "Wie my Frankenstein." It was amazing. Sounded like Doro.
It really was. So let's talk about Call of the Void a little bit. Now, you've talked about how it was different and an educational experience as a songwriter. Going in and not writing songs that were only for yourself. So obviously that was a little bit more of a challenge for you. So from the beginning, what was kind of your goals and how did you approach it?
I would say the big goal was just to branch out and not keep doing the same thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And,
right.
I think as an artist, you have to continue to push your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't necessarily want to. You want to stay in your comfort zone and keep doing the same thing that is easy and comes naturally. But, as we've seen with this record, if you push yourself outside that comfort zone, great things can happen. And this record has really pushed me to new heights and got me in front of new audiences. I can tour with bands that I wouldn't be able to tour with before and have all these amazing guest appearances from different vocalists. And it's just been, an amazing push forward in all the right ways.
Yeah, for sure. So, I look at you today and you're always so optimistic and so positive. And I got this feeling that many of you look up to you as a role model, and do you consider yourself that? And if that, it kind of carries a little weight with it. And so how do you, portray that role, if you will?
I think it's hard to consider yourself a role model, in that way. Like, it's hard to sort of put that label on yourself. But I have heard that too, and I do take it really seriously because I think everybody needs a good role model. And if there are people that are looking at me in that way, I want to set the best possible example. I don't feel positive all the time. I go through my struggles and my issues just like every single other person does, and I get them out. My music is my therapy. I write songs about it, and there are songs on the record that are emotional, angry, sad songs, just like everybody else. And I think that's the most healthy way to channel it rather than, the self-destructive ways that I was channeling it before.
Yeah. Back to the talking about the LA Rams, I don't know if I've ever asked you exactly how you got the gig. I mean, was it something they reached out to you? Did you approach them like, hey, I think I'd be a great fit? I mean, this is obviously a huge organization. So how'd you get in there? Yeah.
So all of these crazy things that I do that are outside the scope of what normal musicians do actually are all the brainchild of my fiance and also manager, Josh. And he is the master of looking at the bigger picture, the grand scheme of things, and thinking, basically, like, what do I like? What am I into that's organic and natural? I'm not going to go off and do, a teeth whitening commercial or, like something that I wouldn't naturally do. But like, what would be organic and natural for me that I would fit in well? And I love football.
Right.
I'm from Los Angeles. We've worked with WWE. We've worked with a lot of other, sports teams. And, I used to work with the LA Kiss arena football team.
Yeah.
And so he was like, the NFL, this is what we need to do. And when the Rams came back to LA, we were like, we got to find a way in there. So through tons and tons of different avenues, he reached out and finally got me booked to play America the Beautiful at the Salute to Service game. This is when the team was still at the Coliseum.
Right.
And then just kept following up with them like, hey, season went great. It was so great to work with you. If there's any, opportunity for us to work together again, we would love to do it. And, sort of like kept our foot in the door, came back the following year and played the Sunday Night Football theme, which is just, I Hate Myself for Loving You, redone about football. And it just went so well. And we loved working together. The organization liked what I brought to the table. So they asked me to do it permanently.
Working with things organic, as you mentioned, I think something else would be very fitting to you. And maybe you've already done a lot of stuff, but we've talked a lot about how you try to stay fit, especially when you're on the road, and conditions don't lend itself to that.
Yes.
So have you thought about doing something like that? And what does it actually take to find that right place to work out while you're on the road?
Well, I actually do have a fitness program that's I released a few years ago.
Okay.
We're actually on the 6th. We just finished the 6th round of the Body Shred Fitness Challenges.
Okay.
We actually just had the grand prize the other day. We flew the winner out to St. Louis to the headquarters of a supplement company that sponsors the challenge called First Form. So we flew the winner out, had a workout with him. The winner wins an Ibanez Jiva guitar and a little Marshall amp and all kinds of fun stuff. So it is really geared at getting our community, the rock community, more involved in being healthy and fit. So yeah, it's a big part of my life, big part of, Josh's and my shared passion, and happy to pass that on as well.
Yeah. When Demi approached you about going on tour with her, did you guys have an immediate bond, or did she ask for your feedback or input, or did you say, look, I think this song might be better if we rock it like this, or how was the communication?
Demi is a rock star at heart.
Yeah.
So we bonded immediately, the first rehearsal. We have a lot in common. She's also sober. She's, on a really strong, smart, healthy life path right now. And I'm sort of on that same trajectory. So we bonded really quickly about music and, bands that we both like, and sobriety and recovery and all that kind of stuff. So working with her was an awesome experience. And she was always open to feedback, always open to jamming. And the best thing about it was how much fun she had doing a rock show.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, when I took that gig, expected to see me in this very choreographed, very polished, pop show. And it wasn't that at all. We just went out there and had fun every single night. And it was so great to watch her enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite part about it.
So, obviously you talk about all the guests you had on your latest album, and Alice obviously is no stranger, but then, you've never really had a song that you said, hey, I think this song would work for you. What did he stand back a little bit? It's like, oh my God, this is unique.
Actually, it was kind of the opposite. We wrote this song specifically for Alice before even asking Alice
Really?
if he would be on the record. So this was a Tommy Henriksen co-write. Tommy from Alice's band writes a lot of the new Alice Cooper stuff, the Hollywood Vampires stuff, all of that. So when I knew I wanted to have Alice on the record, I reached out to Tommy and I was like, hey, I don't know how to write for Alice, but I want to write something tailor-made for him that he doesn't have to put a lot of effort into, that he can just come in and knock it out of the park.
Right.
And no one knows Alice Cooper better than Tommy Henriksen.
Yeah.
So Tommy helped me craft this, he gave me hints of what key he likes to sing in, what a good tempo is.
Wow.
And so we put this piece of music together, and then Tommy put this vocal line together that is just vintage Alice Cooper.
So you almost had a playbook for your strategy on this song before you even went into it.
100%. We went in knowing that we wanted to make it super easy, and if he said no, then we weren't going to use the song, because
Wow.
no one else could sing that song. It's made for Alice.
Yeah.
And we wrote this sort of gory, triumphant song, called Winner Takes All, and thankfully Alice loved it. He went right in the studio and recorded it, and he did it in his home studio in Phoenix the next day, I think within 2 days. And I didn't even have any notes for him.
Yeah.
What kind of notes am I going to give Alice Cooper about being Alice Cooper? He was amazing. He's always amazing.
Right.
So yeah, it was super fun, super easy to work with. Very grateful to his manager Shep and his label for letting us borrow him for a song, and I got to return the favor and play on his new record as well.
Exactly. Well, I heard you do during your sound check Victoria's today, which sounds great. I can't wait to see it live tonight. And Dorothy, I know another one is just, it seems like her vocals, your guitar, it was like a match made in heaven almost.
She's unbelievable, phenomenal vocalist, and an even better person. I think the common theme with the guests that I had on the record is not only are they all mega talented, more talented than I could ever dream of collaborating with, but also just really, really good people.
Yeah.
I got to work with people that I look up to and admire so much, as not just as artists, but just as human beings. And Dorothy is just such a wonderful person, as well as a phenomenal vocalist.
And I'm sure maybe you had this wish list, and obviously Lzzy Hale, she's busy as hell.
She is.
And the funny thing about it is, I just read she's going to help Skid Row close out the last 4 dates of their tour. What's your thoughts on that, What
an amazing fit. The collab the world never knew it needed.
Right.
I think it's awesome. Of course, as a shred kid, I loved Skid Row when I got into metal music, and I liked seeing ZP in the band for I think a decade, and then I thought Eric was great in the band, and now I think Lizzy will be great in the band. They just keep knocking these home runs out of the park with their singers. I'd like to know where they're getting their singer pool. I want to pull some singers from that pool.
Well, I think when they did a covers album, she actually covered a Skid Row tune a long time ago, the best I remember.
I think was it Monkey Business?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So I guess if I'm Skid Row, I'm going, call her up.
I got to think Sebastian Bach's going to be definitely watching this one under the microscope because, I mean, look, the notes he hit back when he was in his 20s, I mean, she can definitely nail them, and it's going to be insane.
Lzzy can nail it in her sleep. Like Lzzy will be phenomenal at anything she does. She was one of my very first calls for my record. I think she's one of everybody's first calls, looking at how busy she is and how many different guest appearances she does and everything she keeps so busy with. I can see why she is as busy as she is and in such high demand, because she's a generational talent, one of the best in the world.
Obviously, I'll get to see you when you come back through Austin in the heat of the summer on the Freaks on Parade tour. This will be the first time I've ever seen Alice Cooper outdoors. Now, with all this production, I mean, obviously there's a cover, but still there could be rain or wind. I mean, do you have to have any specific backups just in case the weather's insane because of all the production he has?
Oh, no. We go on. We do the show rain or shine.
Really?
I mean, the last super rainy show, I think I can actually remember, was at ACL. And we were like way out in it, and it was like thunder and lightning, and even the band was like, hey, can we stop? Our guitars are getting wet, our pedal boards are getting wet, and Alice said, absolutely not. Like, as long as the audience is there, we're going to be there. And the audience didn't leave, so we didn't leave. And everybody just stayed and got absolutely soaked. My poor guitars had to have all the deoxit, everything was oxidizing by the end of the show. So we had to pull them apart, pull all the electronics apart and everything. And, but that's the Alice Cooper way. If the audience stays, we stay.
And I think it's branded perfectly with Rob Zombie and Ministry and Filter. I mean, Freaks on Parade. I mean, and I guess there's a lot of new things that Alice is bringing out that he hasn't done before, right?
Yes. So we did Freaks on Parade last year as well. It was such a cool package. I heard rumblings that we were going to do it again while we were still on that last tour. So I'm so happy that came to fruition and we're doing it. Alice is using video in the show for the first time. I think, he did stuff like that in the 70s, and now we're using it again in the show. So it's really cool to get to see the Alice Cooper experience. And, when you're in the lawn, as fun as it is, I think you miss a big part of the show, which is Alice's theater. It's a lot of acting. And if you're not seeing those up-close facial expressions, I think you're missing a big component of the show. Yeah. So it's really cool now that they're embracing this technology that lets the audience get, the name of the tour is Too Close for Comfort when we do the headline shows. And it really is, very jarring, very eerie to see him up close, in the straitjacket singing, Steven or Dead Babies, or I'm not sure what's going to be on the set list when we come back around this summer, but it's can get a little too close for comfort.
All this talk on AI, especially in regard to the music industry, I mean, it's changing every day and everyone has their own opinion about it. But one thing AI can't do is AI can't play the guitar if you're trying to learn and you're trying to be a great guitarist as you are. So what's your thoughts on this and how everything is going about with AI?
I think it's a slippery slope, as somebody that kind of tries to incorporate a lot of discipline, a lot of creativity and, a lot of critical thinking in my own life. It's hard not to fall into those pitfalls of you can just open up a program and type in a prompt and it will write a social media post for you or write a blog post for you or write song lyrics for you or anything like that. So I sort of have a rule for myself that I won't use it for anything creative. I'll only use it for work type of stuff. But if it's like a blog or an email that I write out to my email list or anything like that, I absolutely will not use it. So I think each person has to figure out exactly what it means for them and just don't get lazy, keep the creativity alive. We can't let the computers do everything for us. We got to keep that human experience alive in some way.
Yeah. Well, as your headlining tour kind of wraps up with Diamante and also Starbenders, which I got to say, I'm so happy to see this show tonight because I've seen all of you artists before, but Starbenders is one that I've kind of found out about a year and a half ago, and I've seen them tonight. Will be my third time. So anything really stand out on this tour that the way the fans have been reacting to the lineup and the shows?
The first day of the tour, I was talking to Kimmy from Starbenders, and we were talking about what a cool package this is, because none of us really sound like each other. You know, Starbenders don't sound like Diamante. Diamante doesn't sound like me. And Kimmy said, different pages, same book.
Right.
And I think that's a perfect way of putting it. And it's really translated that way to the fans. You know, it hasn't at all been like, well, I like this sort of more glam rock style of Starbenders, so I don't like what Nita does. Or I like, you know, this more straightforward rock style of Diamante, so I don't like this, you know, glam thing that Starbenders are doing. Like, all the fans appreciate every single band on this tour. And that's why it's important to tour with bands that don't sound exactly like you.
That's
you know,
right.
The fans, you know, it's so easy to get fatigued if you hear 5 bands in a night and everybody sounds exactly the same. But this is something a little bit different from each band. It's heavy, it's fun, it's female driven, it's rock and roll. And I'm so grateful to have had the chance to tour with Dia and with Starbenders. Like, they've been so easy, so much fun, no drama, only great times. The only problem is the tour is too short.
Yeah,
we were only out here for 3 weeks. We could have done a couple months.
When you stare out in the crowd and you see a lot of young females that may be just really inspired by all three, you know, being led by females, how does that make you feel? Because it's got to be a really positive vibe about that, I think.
It's an awesome time to be a woman in music. It really is. It's so great seeing all these women on the stage and off the stage. You know, I got to see a lot of that on the Demi tour. There were so many women in positions that I have never seen a girl in. You know, I've never worked with a female lighting designer. You know, I've never worked with a female showrunner. I've never worked with a female production manager. Like, she had so many women up high in the tour, you know, on this very, very high level tour. You know, being out here with Diamante and Starbenders, having all these young girls in the crowd, you know, and giving them, you know, we started out this conversation talking about positive role models. Like,
right.
You don't have to look much further than this tour to see, you know, Kimmy and, you know, their incredible drummers, and Dia, and, you know, I have a female singer and keyboard player, and like just so many awesome girls to be around and be inspired by.
Well, hey, man, I can't wait to see the show, and I'll see you again when you come back through with Alice. Nita, always a pleasure having you on the Rock 30.
Thank you so much.